Out of all the Marvel games which have come out in the past decade, I feel like Marvel's Avengers is one of those games which will have its reputation be tarnished for many reasons. If it wasn't already for the poor launch state, it probably has to be for its story and the way about how the game currently is when it comes to the community versus the developers, when it comes to them and their very, and I repeat, very stupid decision. So once again, I will be talking once again about Marvel's Avengers and stuff like that. So, let's get into the video. So, to start off when it comes to why Avengers is a bad game, just to give those people context which haven't played the game, I guess I might as well just talk about the overall story and writing. In which, in that case, I just have to say, it's bad. The characters in this game have little to nothing into them in order to make them interesting other than their base personality traits. The story itself is underwhelming and feels rushed because by the time that we finally get characters like Thor, Captain America, and Black Widow, well, we're already fighting MODOK and the story is already over. The Inhumans are nothing more than a lazy plot device and the stakes are just like... they're just uninteresting and they give me little to no reason to care overall, and pretty much that's it. There's also the whole thing about the DLC chapters or DLC stories, which are free by the way, which are just as equally uninteresting and have nothing to them to make me feel invested in the story, which is honestly just kind of funny because when you look at other Marvel related things or just other Marvel things when it comes to certain characters, they have the opportunity, or a lot of the time there's times where you look at a character which you didn't think you would be interested in, but they could be pretty interesting. But Marvel's Avengers doesn't really do that with its story because it would rather just give you the base of something that could have been good and then just moves on. Nothing of importance really matters and stuff like that. So I guess this is the part where I move on to the general gameplay. So when it comes to the general gameplay of Marvel's Avengers, I feel like it's bad for multiple reasons. Like, yes, the combat is good, but it's ruined by the fact that, well, things get a bit hectic, and not in the fun type of hectic, but in the type of hectic to the point where it's just a pain to see. And I'm a young person, so I shouldn't be getting sick of certain things, but seriously, I will never understand the idea of thinking that, oh yeah, let's just put a million things on the screen just to make it fun, because that's the sort of thing that happens. There's also this shitty excuse which a lot of fans of this game make by saying that the combat would be boring if all you did was one-tap enemies because you're Iron Man or Thor or some other guy. In which, in that case, I'm just going to say this. Now, I'm not asking for us, the players, just to one-tap everything, because obviously the game would be unfun then. But at least make the combat interesting to where all they do is just throw the same repeated enemy at us again and again as they run at us in swarms and just repeat the same bullshit. If you play a game like Spider-Man PS4 or Infamous or Prototype or literally any other superhero game, you would see that the combat in those games are interesting and actually have something to them to where, hey, this is actually fun because this game is providing me a challenge. While the only challenge in Marvel's Avengers is trying to stay alive because you have a million things on the screen going on at once, rather that or you're getting swarmed by a bunch of stupid robots. And talking about enemy variety, man, the enemy variety in this game sucks. As I said, if we're not fighting robots, we're fighting these guys, these just not even like super powered men, just like normal people, guns, or some abnormally large people, and to the point where it's not even funny. It's actually kind of hilarious about how in the beginning of the game, how we had this really cool boss fight with Taskmaster, but then as you fight him in the multiplayer section of the game, he just sits there as you continue to fucking punch him. And the same thing counts for every other boss too. Yes, they have a set amount of attacks, but a good majority of the time, they literally sit there as you punch them to death, and as they push you away, and you repeat the same thing. You would think that for a Avengers game that things would be a lot more better, and that there would be a sense of quality and passion put into this, but it's pretty clear to see that the developers are kind of lazy when it came to implementing basic ass things into their game. But let's talk about the cosmetics. Now, when it comes to the cosmetics of Marvel's Avengers, all I have to say is that Spider Man looks down upon this game in shame. Because they fucked up badly. Now, I'm not just saying this because I feel like the MCU outfits are better, but damn, could you really tell that they did not give a flying fuck about this game when it came to the way about how the superheroes looked? Which is like one of the most important aspects of the game. Like, once again, making this comparison to Spider Man. Spider Man PS4 has probably set the mark for how you do cosmetics when it comes to a video game, especially a superhero one. You have your designs, which are just like from the developers, but then everything else is rather comic or movie related, and it's just, good. But Marvel's Avengers is just like, okay, so we have some shitty designs which we made ourselves, some inspired designs which are supposedly going to be comic accurate, or supposed to be comic accurate, and then aside from that, we have a bunch of lazy asset flips and recolors, because that's how lazy these people are. Like, seriously, at this point, I would rather take Iron Man fucking shooting rainbows and unicorns out of his chest than this bullshit. Because at least something like that would take effort. While what Marvel's Avengers does is take little to no effort when it comes to doing anything, which is honestly just a shame. In all honesty, if I were to even say about getting cosmetics in this game, the only ones that are actually worthwhile are like the MCU ones. Because at least then you look somewhat recognizable as a damn Avenger instead of whatever the hell they originally came up with. But now that we're done with that, how about we get on to the actual big bad of Crystal Dynamics? So, from the previous examples that I provided before I got to this segment, I think it's pretty obvious to say that when it comes to Crystal Dynamics, their management when it came to this game has been a train wreck so far. And the thing which made the fans, or just the things that the community are mad about, had to be something which these people legitimately lied about. And just to provide a bit more context, basically before the game launched, they said that there were going to be no microtransactions in the game, and that if you were going to play it, you wouldn't need to buy anything in order to progress or anything like that. And that seems like a reasonable thing to say. It seems pretty good for marketing and stuff like that. But, like, it's so funny because a year later they just put microtransactions in the game. And when the community themselves have a public uproar about this, when they all get mad about it because, hey, you fucking lied when you said that you weren't going to put microtransactions in the game, these people have the audacity to say that the community is apparently toxic. Yeah, the community is toxic. And not anyone else, it's the community that's a problem now that they called you out for your bullshit of lying, which is just so sad to see, because you would expect that, when it comes to something like the community calling you out on your own bullshit, you would have some self-awareness to be like, okay, this was a bad idea, let's take it out of the game. But no, they still have it in the game. Like, if you look at any videos about this subject, there's still going to be videos about, oh yes, the microtransactions are still in that daily store that is here. And it is just cringe, I'll just tell you that. And the worst part about this has to be those shills that are just like, oh, but guys, they're not that bad. And in that case, I'm just going to say this. Are you fucking blind or something? Because I'm not so sure about you, but the moment you start accepting stuff like this in a game where the developers legitimately said that there weren't going to be microtransactions is where the problems start. Like, I think it's pretty clear to say that this game was kind of fucked from the beginning because there's so many problems with it, but stuff like this is stuff that could seriously harm the game, especially when they went back on their promise about not putting microtransactions in the game. So watch it go from something like this to something worse in the future if you're one of those morons out there which are legitimately trying to defend Crystal Dynamics for their bullshit. In which, in that case, let me just go on a quick rant here. If there's something which I will never understand, is when people shill for the devs of any game company which is obviously doing a shitty job at managing their game. And with Crystal Dynamics, this is just the thing I just do not understand. They obviously have problems with their game, but whenever there's someone that actually criticizes it for the hope of it getting better, there's always these shills which just come out from the fucking depths or just come out from their little caves and just defend them as if that's going to change anything. If you gatekeep a game and prevent it from having any form of criticism and you think it's perfectly fine the way it is, then you are part of the problem. And obviously, there's a difference between what type of thing is criticism and what isn't criticism, but yeah, that's the way it is. But that's all I have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'm Lumble360. See you guys in another video, and yeah, later.